Hello and welcome to the final video podcast episode of July 2024. My name is Gemma. I am the diary designer, tutor maker behind the Midnight Diary, the YouTube channel, the hand dyed yarns, the patterns, the workshops. And I'm coming to you from my home in Devon, where I live with my husband, my little boy and our animals. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers. We've had a little flurry again over the last week or so, so I'm really pleased that you're enjoying yourselves here enough to want to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. That does mean a lot. Thank you. And to returning viewers, thank you again. Here I am again. We are consistent. I'm actually going to put it out there and use the word consistent now, and hopefully not then proceed to immediately jinx myself. But yeah, it's been every single week since the first week in January, and we're now in July. We're in the latter half of the year. We're on the downward slope to Christmas. I said it. And to obviously Vlogmas and things like that as well. And hopefully I will be nice and regular with that as well. So anyway, it's a bit of a bumper episode for you this week, and I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm inviting you a bit behind the scenes of my making. I've got some knitting, I've got some sewing, and I've got some quilting to share with you this week, and some making and baking. So lots of different bits going on behind the scenes. It's my first time editing a video quite like this, so I'm not entirely sure how it's going to go, but hopefully you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the process. And I'm looking also forward to hearing your feedback about it. So it's been quite a week here. It is the summer holidays in the UK. I'm no longer working at the preschool at the moment because obviously it's closed for the summer, and I don't have many shifts coming in from the cafe, and I'm making the most of every moment I've got with my little boy and to get out in the beautiful Devon surroundings that we live in here in Torquay. My husband has managed to break his foot. He kicked a travel cot that we're getting ready to sell, and then proceeded to kick everything else in the house on his way around. I don't quite know how he does it. We are not the tidiest of people naturally, but we don't live in total chaos, and it just seems that his foot finds anything, even if there's a lovely clear path. So he's hobbling along feeling a bit sorry for himself, and I'm taking on the majority of the dog walks and things, and I must admit I've really been enjoying it lately. So as you'll have seen from our first little walk there, that's the Downs, that's Babbacombe Downs, and looking down onto what's known as Oddicombe Beach. There's a cliff railway that runs all the way down, and I spent some time knitting there on my dog walks with Magnus. But as you'll have seen from that video, I have actually been working on another pair of socks. These are Robin's Green Woodpecker socks. If you watch my box of socks updates, you'll have seen these in progress already, but they are now finished. Actually, did I finish them by... I don't think I finished them by the time I did the last update, but I can't remember. So here we are, a little pair of socks. So these, as I said, are Green Woodpecker. One looks slightly bigger than the other because one's been on a blocker in the yarn dispensary, which is the yarn shop I used to run. I've done a 52 stitch cast on. I think I mentioned this before with Robin's other socks, that I was kind of anticipating him growing, and obviously I was knitting these last summer. I had no idea how his little legs or feet would have grown by this summer and this winter, so hopefully they're not going to be too big and baggy, but if not, we can roll them down. Oh, they look really sweet, little roll cuffs, I think. Let's have a look and see. Yeah, they look really cute. So the yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners. I hacked the numbers from my simple vanilla sock pattern, which will be coming out, I promise. Yeah, I didn't intend to make them matchy, but it turns out they are, and I'm not mad about it. I quite like it. Yeah. It's just the way it happens to have worked out. It's quite pleasing, really. I wouldn't personally, I know some people do, and that's absolutely fine, but I wouldn't personally pull loads of yarn out to get to the next stripe sequence for my socks to match. I wouldn't. To me, that's a waste of yarn. I know for some people it means the finished item is much more polished, and I must admit I do really like the fact that these are matchy. But I wouldn't deliberately waste the yarn to get to that, if that makes sense. This is just a delightful bonus for me that they match. So yeah, they have been tucked away in my box of socks, which I'm working on through Summer Sock Camp 2024. So if you are a viewer of the podcast but haven't tried those out, that's why I'm going into much more detail about my sock knitting, because during this summer I'm joining in with the Crazy Sock Ladies Summer Sock Camp, and the whole premise of that is just to knit socks. So I am knitting so many more socks than I would usually, and if I included all those in the podcast, these things would be an hour and a half long each time. So I've put those in separate videos, but going forward after the summer, we're going to reabsorb our sock knitting, my sock knitting, into the podcast proper. So yeah, hopefully you're enjoying those. They seem to be quite popular, the summer sock updates. So yeah, there's definitely an appetite for socks, it seems. I have another finished object to share with you, and that is the almost finished from last time. It is the flax. There we go. I absolutely love it. I haven't managed to get Robin to try it on yet. It's so hot. It got to 28, 29 degrees, I think, here yesterday. It was 29 degrees in the car when we got into it after our play date with a preschool friend. We took the boys to the play cafe, which is basically this giant kind of play frame, soft play type thing. I mean, it's not the biggest I've ever seen, but it's pretty good. And it was lovely for me because usually when I take Robin, I have to get in there with him, which is fine. I love it and I love running around with him, but it was nice for me to sit back and watch him playing with a little friend rather than him relying on me all the time. And it was just lovely to see him interacting and enjoying his time. Anyway, aside, it was 29 degrees in the car when we got back in it after our play date. So I haven't managed to get him to try it on yet. He does really like it. He's told me he really likes it. He's like, it's for me. I said, yeah, it's for you. Do you like it? Yeah. What colour is it? Rainbow. Do you want to try it on? No. Nope. He's discovered the word no. And it should be annoying, but he sounds really cute when he says it. So we just laugh, which is probably not what we should be doing as parents. But anyway, there we go. Here it is, the flax. Modifications I made is that I did an extra 1.5 inches on the body. My son has quite a long body. His daddy does too. He definitely gets his figure from his daddy, not from me. I guess most things from his daddy, actually. If I wasn't there, I wouldn't even be sure he was mine, to be honest with you, but there we are. It's like he gets his anxiety from me. How about that? Yeah, so I've done an extra sort of 1.5 inches on the bottom, and it doesn't look excessively long, does it? I do wonder how short Tin Can Knits thinks bodies are, and this is the regular length, not the cropped. The sleeves I did to pattern. I was tempted to do extra extra ribbing on the cuffs so that he could roll it back, but then I thought we'll just go for it. As you can see, I did not run out of yarn. I actually have a little nugget left, And the reason there are so many more ends than usual is, if you didn't see my podcast last time, I'll explain very quickly. The pattern suggested I would need more yarn than I had to complete it, and I knew I wanted to add on to the length of the body. So what I did was I knit one ball until it ran out, and that was the body. At that point I put the body on hold and then used the other ball, divided that into two 50-gram balls, and knit each of the sleeves down to the whack myself in the face, down to the cuff. At which point I cut the yarn from one of them, not both. I'm very glad I didn't do it from both, because I'd have more ends to weave in. One more end, two more ends to weave in, and that's too many. Rejoined to the body, and you can almost see where it happened really, because of the speckling seems heavier on this 50 grams. Let's see, is that where it happened? Yeah, there, pretty much. Just there. Actually, it's not too obvious, I don't think. If you didn't know, you wouldn't necessarily know. Yeah. So rejoined to the body, knit the body down, and knit the ribbing. And I had enough. I had some left over as well. And then I went back. I thought, right, well, that will do. An extra 1.5 inches will do. I probably would have liked to have done it longer, but I was a bit nervous and I wanted to do the cuffs. So I bound off, and I just did a normal binding off in pattern. I didn't faff about with the tubular bind off, which I will as he gets older and his jumpers last longer. But for this, I couldn't be bothered. I just wanted it finished. Does that make me a bad maker? I don't know. And then I did the cuffs. And to my delight, I've got a little nugget of DK left, which I'm actually going to use to make him another dinosaur, or to make his cousin a dinosaur, one of the two. One of the little knitted stegosauruses I knit before a while ago. Oh, there's butterflies dancing in my hydrangeas. That's lovely. We were feeling a little bit worried because we hadn't seen many butterflies so far this year, but I did point out to my husband that when we moved into this house, it was near the end of August and there were butterflies everywhere, and it's only July, so we might still be a wee bit early, and we are now starting to see some butterflies, which is very exciting. Butterflies are important. There we go. So there we are, flax DK, knit in my hand-dyed DK. There we are. Woohoo! For Robin, and I'm going to tuck that away for his birthday, unless he sweet talks me into giving it to him before, which he may well do. So as you know, I've really been enjoying baking with my son this summer. He loves baking. We've baked together since he was tiny. I think he was about 10 months old or 11 months old when we baked for his daddy's birthday. And all that consisted of was sticking him in his high chair in the kitchen while I baked. But as I had the ingredients, the dry ingredients, I would give them to him to play with and feel and explore in a little tray. So he had a kind of sensory experience while I was baking, and then we decorated them together. He helped gloop the icing on and things like that. So obviously he wasn't baking, but it's something we've done together since he was really tiny. And it was important to me because my one standout memory with my mum is making cookies together in the kitchen. I can even remember the tiles, the oven, everything. And it wasn't something we ever really did together. It was just this one time that really stands out to me, and it is one of my most treasured memories. But also I baked a lot with my grandma growing up, who you might have met on So Sweet Samuel's channel. She calls herself This Grandma Knits now. Yeah, and that was really, those memories of baking together were really important to me. And Robin loves baking as well. He's getting really good at the weighing, the mixing. He can crack an egg better than I can. There's no shell goes in it when he cracks an egg. So yeah, we've been enjoying some baking.
Give Daddy a cake.
You're going to make Daddy a cake? Wow.
No, and make Robin a cake.
Make Robin a cake. What cake are we making today?
Robin's cake.
Yeah? What's Robin having in his cake?
Sprinkles.
Sprinkles. Are sprinkles going in your cake?
Sprinkles.
They're too sharp for Robin. I'm really sorry, I can't find your special scissors this morning. After
Where's my special scissors?
You don't
Where's
know.
my special scissors?
Mummy's lost them. Can you put that in the bin, please?
Okay,
Thank you.
it's circle.
You put the circle in the tin.
Yeah.
Well done, buddy. Great, that's our tin all ready. Now we need to do some weighing.
Rain? How?
With our weighing scales. Butter.
I need a spoon.
We do. Here you go.
Thank you. Mommy's happy.
Yeah, Mummy's fine. It was just a whoopsie. Whoopsies happen.
It's just the what's on the table.
We have got a whoopsie on the table, but it's all right. All better now.
Ah,
Are you playing peekaboo?
peekaboo, 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 peekaboo.
You're so silly. Mummy's going to put the noisy whisk on now. Are you going to be all right with that?
I need to go.
No. We're not just eating it because we need some to go in the cake. What we're doing is we're stirring the cherries in. Can you mix them all in? Can you see? Are they disappearing?
This is a baby.
Where are they going?
If I tell mommy.
They're going to find their mummy. Oh my goodness. I think they're going in our yummy cherry cake. Now, this is a really important job. We've got to pour all the cake mix into there. Oh, I need your big strong arm. That's it. Big strong arm to help me. Oh, thank you. Wow. Have I got it all or is there more?
I need to eat it.
You can eat it when it's cooked.
Okay.
Is that all in, do you think?
I need all the cherry.
We can't hold the cherries now because they're in this. Now we need to just spread it out a bit.
I
Can you
need
help
to
me?
eat a spoon.
We're not eating the spread just yet. We just need to push it out to the sides of the tin. That's it. If I turn it around, it might be easier. There you go. You push it out to the side. That's it. Good job. Well done.
Eat it.
You did do it. Well
I
done.
need to eat it.
Hold on. We need to finish spreading the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for baking with me.
You're welcome.
So here you are, my cherry cake that I baked with my son. Let's go this side. As you can see, all the cherries have sunk to the bottom. I made the fatal error of ignoring Mary Berry. She said in her book that you should wash the glacé cherries thoroughly and dry them on kitchen towel, and it would prevent them from all sinking to the bottom during the baking process. But I thought, I can't really be bothered. I don't really have the time. My toddler wants to eat it before it's baked. And also, like, isn't the kind of syrupy stuff on the outside the best bit of a glacé cherry? Anyway, I do kind of wish I'd listened to her, but at the same time, it works out really well because my husband doesn't like cherries. He doesn't like bits or textural things. So what he can do is just slice that tiny little bit at the bottom off, and then he's got a nice sponge cake to eat, and Robin and I have cherry cake. It was a big cake, and considering it's just Robin and I that would eat it, we don't need one of those to ourselves. So we took some for our play date with our preschool friends yesterday, and I lobbed some over the fence at my next door neighbour last night. She cooeyed over the fence to ask us about our recycling bins because the bin men had swapped them over, and there was a really good reason why we needed to swap them back, which I won't go into. But anyway, it's health and safety basically. So I was chatting to her while my husband was swapping the bins over, and we were talking, she was talking about Robin and how she likes hearing him play out in the garden, and I was like, oh, I hope we don't disturb you because we do get a little bit raucous. And anyway, then we were talking about baking. I said, you know, we do different things. I do the messy play and the baking, and my husband does the exploring, the adventuring and the sporty stuff. And we've all got our different things that we like to do. And she said, oh yeah, I love that. I love that you bake with him. That's lovely. I said, oh, hold fire. And I rushed in, chopped half of this cake off, wrapped it in tin foil. And I said, how good are you at catching? She went, I'm not bad. I was like, heads up, and literally lobbed a cake over the fence at her. Although we're next door neighbours, we've got kind of like outside of our kitchen, there's, because Torquay's really hilly, there's a raised bit of concrete of original to the house, and then a wall and a couple of steps down into the garden. And that bit under the kitchen window we're kind of using as garden storage at the moment. It's not very attractive. It's got a bright blue tarpaulin over it because we're waiting to find the perfect storage solution, and we're very patient and we will wait to find it at the right price on Marketplace. So I couldn't actually get to arm's reach of my next door neighbour to pass her this cake, so I did have to lob it across the fence. Anyway, it got lobbed. She caught it and seemed quite pleased, so there we go. Right, on to works in progress then. I've been doing some more sock knitting. There's not a lot else that's really had my attention, but here we are. I've cast on 3 new socks since I last spoke to you. And the irony is, in my last sock update, I was all like, I'm finishing socks, I'm casting off whips, and I'm not, you know, increasing my whip count. I'm being really good and it feels really great. And then I go and cast on 3 new pairs of socks. I've cast on the Kingfisher socks for Robin, which, do I have them here? So I've cast on the second Kingfisher sock for my son Robin. He's got another mini sock like the green woodpecker but in Kingfisher. So I've cast that on. I haven't got very far with that because I got distracted. And my heart, and that's Kingfish colourway from West Yorkshire Spinners. The reason I pulled that one out of the freezer, a lot of these have been in the freezer because I was a bit nervous about moths. It doesn't seem like we've had moths. They seem to have come out unscathed, which is great. Is I said to my husband, would you like some green woodpecker socks? Because I've got enough left over. Not really my colours. I mean, they're fine, but they're not really my colours. And he said, oh, Kingfisher's my favourite. Have I seen a Kingfisher yarn? I'm like, yeah, you have. Like, show me a yarny husband, right? He knows the colourways better than most people. So I pulled this out of the freezer, inspected it. It's totally fine. It's been in there for about 6 months now. And cast on Robin's second sock so that I can then cast on a pair for Alan. And where's it gone? Oh, here. For Alan's, I'm going to use Dusty Miller as the contrast because I want to make sure I've got enough in here. And also, honestly, I quite like a pair of Kingfisher socks as well. So I've cast those on, but you know my heart right now, if I'm being completely honest, is in DK socks. And this yarn from the Middle of Lidl, which I call my Halloween socks because they seem quite Halloweeny to me, has been calling to me incessantly since I cast off the last pair of DK socks, which I think were the Lara Beach socks. And I was like, no, I can't cast them on. I need to finish other things. I'm far too busy for all this. I couldn't help myself, guys. I did that on, I want to say Saturday. I'm not sure which day I cast them on, to be honest. And I did all of that basically in a day, knitting on and off. I was doing other things as well, but yeah, so I've done a 15 row cuff. I've done a 30 round leg because I don't like my legs to be too long, and a slip stitch heel flap, and I'm part of the way through the gusset. I'm hopeless. There's just no hope for me. I'm so in love with double knitting weight socks at the moment, and these yarns are so fun and different, and I really enjoy them. They definitely feel a bit more rustic than the West Yorkshire Spinners, but they're fantastic value, and if Lidl do them again, I'm going to be there stocking up. I don't care, because I would happily knit these all day, every day for the next 600 years, I reckon. I'm really, really enjoying it. I know they're just vanilla socks, but there's nothing wrong with a vanilla sock. I love vanilla. Vanilla is the most underrated flavour going. I think it's a staple, and it's comforting, and it's everything you need in a cake and a sock. And a candle, but the smell of vanilla makes my husband feel sick, so I have to do this instead. This is my vanilla hit. There we are. Okay, so I really, really like those. I'm just loving them. I'm using a 3.5mm needle. These are the Zing interchangeable needles, but I've got them on the Knit Picks Choices, I think, cables that belonged to the Stranded Elf. Jude very kindly gave me Mary's interchangeable needles after Mary passed away, and I love them. I use them all the time. The tips are in a different project, the 3.5mm tips, so I just used the cable and my Zing tips here. So that's that. I did say I cast on 3 pairs of socks. Let me find the third one. Yeah, it's not much to show, but I'm incredibly proud of this. This is the toe of the July knit along for 52 weeks of socks. I know it's the 31st of July. I know this. Whatever, it's still July and I've cast on, which was Dear Björn, and I absolutely love this pattern. It's a slip stitch pattern, but it's toe up, and I watched a tutorial for Judy's magic cast on via Very Pink Knits. She started doing slow-mo tutorials now, which is hugely helpful. I've made a couple of modifications. The pattern calls for lifted increases for increasing along the toe, and I got into such a muddle. I was really struggling to find where I needed to actually lift from, and I was I just didn't like the look of them. I was ending up with these kind of like long stringy bits, so I moved to make one left and make one right, which essentially does the same thing. It's an increase. So that's my first modification, and I'm doing the toe, as you can see, in Dusty Miller, which is the West Yorkshire Spinners colourway, and the main sock is going to be, you ready? It's going to be this, which is Rainbow by Fibre. Whoop! Apparently I'm throwing it. It's got so much my hair is everywhere. I do actually spend most of my time with my hair tied back. I know I don't often have it tied back for the podcast, but my jobs, etc., necessitate having my hair tied back. And also I don't, you know, when you're playing around with a toddler and yeah, there's so much hair. Anyway, so this is Rainbow by Fiberpunk. Marcus, my lovely friend who I adore, and I adore his yarns, and I'm lucky enough to get to chat to him every few weeks. We do a little video call and knit and moan, set the world to rights. Yeah, and this is Rainbow, which I had started the Lyric pattern in, but I let my students for my knitting in the round workshop have a go at knitting just plain stocking stitch on this. And bless them, some of them are so tight I just couldn't unpull it. And I thought, do I really want to spend time figuring out where in the pattern I was nearly 6 months on? So I frogged it. And I thought, I felt a bit sad, but at the same time I thought, I know there's going to be a pattern that comes up that's perfect for this. And this very week I realised, of course, that it's going to go beautifully with the Dear Björn socks. So I'm now going to transition into Grainbow. Isn't that going to look amazing? It's just going to look so good. So I'm going to transition into that and knit the sock. And what I might do is, I'm not sure I'm brave enough for a toe up heel flap and gusset. I might just knit a tube in pattern and cut in for an afterthought heel. I might do that. Yeah, I might do an afterthought heel. I haven't done that in a while. I'll video the process for you. But yeah, I don't know if Jude's tutorial is still on his YouTube channel or not. I know he got rid of a lot of his old stuff, but yeah, anyway, there you go. So that's Dear Björn. So 3 socks have been cast on. I know I'm utterly ridiculous. So another craft that has had my attention this past week is sewing. I'm trying my hand at garment sewing, and it's been quite an interesting journey so far. So when I was in Creative Craft and Needlework Totnes, when I visited them, I found the perfect pattern for pyjamas for my son. I've always wanted to make him pyjamas. I've had little dreams, fantasies of him wearing these cute handmade flannel pyjamas, the sort you can't really get anymore in the shops, but properly traditional. And I managed to get us all a pair that were kind of along those lines from Sainsbury's for Christmas. I really wanted to make some, and when I was there I found the perfect pattern. It's from Sew Over It in London, but it's their Poppy and Jazzy range, which is children's wear, and these are the pomegranate pyjamas. And while I was in Creative Crafts Needlework, I also found the perfect fabric. It's little triceratops, rainbow triceratops on bright orange background in cotton, and it's amazing. So it's been a bit of a journey so far. I have put off making these since February. 1, because of time. 2, because I have my quilting project that I really felt I needed to get finished first. 3, because I have got ages to do this. They're summer weight pyjamas and it's not summer yet. And 4, possibly the biggest reason, I was scared. I've not done much in the way of garment sewing. My friend Emma helped me make the most beautiful needle cord skirt a number of years ago, which sadly doesn't fit. I think I've still got it, but it doesn't fit, but it's beautiful. We made a toile and everything. And I've made a pair of shorts for my godson and a summer dress for my goddaughter in jersey and in linen. And there were various things that went wrong with that as well, but I really enjoyed the process. But when I'd bought all the materials, it was actually over £50 I'd spent. Now, bearing in mind, I bought the pattern, which was £12, but it goes up to 6 years. So in theory, he's going to get 3 years of pyjamas out of this. He better do. I bought the tracing paper so I could trace the pattern and therefore keep using the pattern for all those different sizes going forward. I bought the thread, the buttons, elastic, a new machine needles, and obviously the fabric itself. And the fabric itself wasn't too bad. I think it was like £12 a metre. And Naomi's great. She doesn't insist you buy by the half metre or the metre. She cuts you what you need. And this pattern said I needed 1.8 metres for whatever size. So she would, have 1.8 metres, and that's what I did. But yeah, so after putting it off for the longest time, I decided that now was the moment. I just had to dive in. I just had to go for it. So I had a couple of hours, and to my absolute amazement, it did take me those couple of hours to trace out the pattern pieces. I started by actually ironing the tracing paper to remove the creases. I don't know if this was a weird thing to do or the right thing to do, but either way, it worked for me. Took my time trying to get it absolutely correct. I did find a little bit confusing at times to follow what the correct size was for my son's pyjamas. There were different line types to denote the different sizes, so almost like a key, a code for you to follow. It actually took a lot longer than I thought to trace these pieces out, and from then I cut them and decided to pin them to the fabric and see if I could at least get it pinned in place, if not actually start to cut out the pattern pieces. To my absolute surprise, I realised I didn't have any pins. One of the things I'd apparently got rid of in the move, so I had to dash out to Sainsbury's and pick up some very basic dressmaker's pins. From there came the really daunting task of pinning into the fabric itself. I started by ironing the fabric and getting it all pressed and ready to go. Robin was awake during this process, but luckily his daddy kept him entertained with board games at the table, so it enabled me to actually get on and get the ironing done, and then took him out into the garden, which meant I could do the pinning. I found pinning the pattern pieces to the fabric a little bit stressful. It all kept moving. I was very aware of stretching the fabric and not wanting it to stretch away from the grain. And it turns out I hadn't cut my pattern pieces necessarily as well as I perhaps could have done or should have done. My third session saw me starting to actually sew the pieces together. I had thought that I would perhaps start with the trousers, but in the end I opted to go with the pattern instructions and work them as stated, and it gets you to start by putting the patch pocket onto the front of the pyjamas. Now this was a bit of a surprise to me because I would have thought that had gone on last, but actually it makes perfect sense to put it on first. And I was very pleased with my pattern placement. That meant that I'd actually managed to get my dinosaurs lined up and pattern matched almost perfectly, which it's a small thing, but I'm very proud of it. There are lots of bits that I haven't done before. I wasn't familiar with the term stay stitching, so I had to Google that. I did try calling the shop, but they were very busy and didn't actually manage to answer the phone. But Google told me what stay stitching was, so I've managed to do that, and I've managed to start putting the pieces of the shirt together. Okay, here we are. Here is the start of the pyjama, and I'm very pleased that it's going to be quite hard for you to see where the pocket is, but here it is. There. That is my pattern matching, which I'm absolutely delighted with. I can't begin to tell you how happy I am with that. And look, it's actually starting to look a little bit like a jacket. Robin saw it when he woke up from his nap, because I'd almost finished putting the jacket together, and he was so excited. Pyjamas, pyjamas! Honestly, he's so make-worthy, it's brilliant. And so I draped it over his shoulders, and he wandered around very proudly with it, but he kept getting upset because it flapped open, because obviously there's nothing to keep it together. But I'm really excited for him to have the actual thing. The next thing that I did was started the collar, putting the collar together. Again, this is new for me, so the only bit I didn't get onto doing was pinning and stitching the collar into place, so that is next. So my next opportunity to sew, which probably isn't going to be until the weekend now, I'm hoping to get the pyjama jacket done, and I'll be able to share that with you next time. I'm really enjoying it. I was starting to get quite stressed out about, doing it wrong, about the stitches not being perfect, about there being issues with it. But in the end, I've just decided to put all that to one side and say, he's 2. He's going to have homemade pyjamas. It's a learning process. And the next pair I make, I can put in the things that I've learned this time, and it will be better. And at the moment, I just want him to have these pyjamas. The final thing I've got to share with you is quilting. I've left this project for quite some time, and the reason I've left it is because I wasn't happy with it. He's gone to the car. I'm about to be joined by a little co-host.
Hi, everybody.
Pleased to see you. Oh, wow. So I'm being joined by my little co-host just for these last couple of moments. I just wanted to show you my quilting. Look, what's this, Robin?
Needles.
Needles. There's needles in there. There's pins and needles in there. So this should have been finished by now, but
Pins and needles.
Pins and needles.
I need the dummy.
I don't think you need a dummy. It's not sleepy time. Can I have that, please?
No, I need to sleep.
You need to sleep. Right, go to sleep then. Go to sleep. I started machine quilting it back in, I want to say April or May, and the machine quilting I felt left a lot to be desired. It was wonky, it was all over the place, so I stopped and started hand quilting it. And my thought was that I could hand quilt it all and then leave the machine quilting in, and it just kind of meet in the middle and it'd be fine. So I'd left it for basically a couple of months, and on what I've learnt about myself is if I leave a project for that long, there's something I'm not happy about with it, and I'm not going to be happy until I've changed it and sorted it out. So I spent some time yesterday pulling out the machine stitching. It took about 3 hours across the day, and then started the hand quilting completely by hand again from the beginning. I've got part of the way through, and hopefully this will be finished by the end of the weekend, so I can start putting this hot water bottle together. So there is my hand stitching. I'm very pleased with it. So finally, I want to share with you my work in progress plans. I have big plans for the rest of the summer. I want to get started on some Christmas makes and Christmas gifts, as I alluded to last week. I haven't started them yet because, having finished the flax, I felt a little bit miserable, and I felt miserable because there's things I need to do that are already too small for people, and I really need to revisit them, and it's just this whole thing. I got all in my own head about it. And so what I've decided to do is to start pulling out very, very old works in progress and getting them finished. So each time I finish something, I'm going to pull out a very old whip and try and get that finished. And if I get that finished, then I can cast on something new for my Christmas makes. However, there is a way around this. This first one is a Christmas gift. So here we are. This is the Moira Rose shawl, which, can't even, needle and all sorts going on. It's a bit bunched up on the needles, I'm afraid, and I'm partway through a row, but what's new for me? So this is the Moira Rose shawl, which you can't really see very well. It's by Jackie Badger. It was a sample. It was a shop sample for me because it's my colourways. So you've got neutral tones and lead, I think, or lead and, I don't know, it's irrelevant now anyway, but 2 greys. And I wanted to knit it because roses are one of my favourite flowers, and one of my prevailing memories of visiting my grandma, again, this grandma knits, is she had the most amazing fragrant rose bushes in her garden in the I think it was the last house that my granddad built. They built quite a few of their houses, and the garden was beautiful with the most fragrant rose bushes, and I used to toddle around because I think I was only 5 when they moved into their last home. Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, I used to toddle around and pick up the rose petals and collect them for Grandma, and they smelt so beautiful. And Moira is the name of, I don't think she was actually an auntie. I think she was one of Grandma's best friends. And she lived up in Aberdeen, Moira and Alec, and unfortunately both of them passed away a few years ago. And Auntie Moira, I just adored her. And when this pattern came out, I think at that point Moira might have just passed away, or she passed away soon after. But when the test call happened and I saw it as Moira Rose, I was like, I've got to make this and I've got to give it to Grandma when it's done being a sample. It never became a sample for my shop because I never finished it. But I've only got a little bit left of the border to do. I'm so close to the finish. So this is my first deep stash whip that I want to work on and hopefully get finished. And then it's going to be a Christmas present for my grandma. I'm not really sure how she feels about grey. I've never seen her in grey. I think she's got a grey pair of trousers, but that's about it. But I'm hoping that it's a nice enough neutral that she can put it with everything. She wears a lot of jewel tones in the winter. She looks fabulous in teal and amethyst and all these really rich, deep jewel tones. And I think this will go well with that. So hopefully it's a nice neutral, and hopefully the meaning behind the pattern will, make it perfect for her as well. So it's beautiful. It's got this gorgeous feather and fan detail down the spine, some eyelets every so often in the increases of the main body, and then it goes into this repeating eyelet and feather and fan motif for the border. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of the grey left for that, and an elastic band apparently. and when I finish off with this grey, and I can't think what this is called. Is this oxide? Yeah, I can see now it's got bits of orange and blue and brown in it. This is oxide. So when I finish with this, I can then use it for socks and things, or as a neutral for something else. So yeah, so that is my first deep stash whip. So we're deep diving and going to get it finished. So there we are, that's the first one. So you need to hold me to account for that, okay? It's in my Midnight Diary patch bag, which I had made by my lovely friend Emma. She made them for me in this fab denim with these beautiful faux leather Midnight Diary tags that I had made by a seller on Etsy. And there were a limited run of these, but I really love it. And it's a really sturdy bag. So there we go. Well, that's it from me today. It's been a long one. It's a new style of podcast for me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I don't know how often I'll do it in this format, but I'd love to hear your feedback below, whether you've enjoyed seeing the snippets, bits of bobs around the time, or whether you prefer me to just get on and talk about things and get it over in 20 minutes. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I will listen to it and take it into account and use it to shape the future of my channel potentially. So there we are. And I'm going to go and eat my cake. Take care. Bye.